Hey everyone, Lisa here, and today I have a desk makeover to show you using a homemade chalk paint recipe that I'm really happy with. This desk I've actually done up for my daughter's room. She's gonna have like a rainbow themed room by the time it's finished, so I thought a nice white base with some pops of colour on top would tie in nicely with her room. So I'll show you how it's done. Let's get started. So this is actually what we're starting with. It's a very masculine looking desk. It's a very good solid desk. It's just had a little bit of wear and tear over the time we've had it. It's got a dark brown vinyl insert on top, and it's got a lot of surface dents and surface scratches that we need to get rid of. It's got great drawers, a pencil drawer, a normal drawer and a filing cabinet on each side, and then a middle drawer as well. So yeah, it's a good solid desk, and this is basically what we're starting off with. So first of all, we're going to start by giving the inside of the drawers a pop of colour. So this chalk paint recipe requires 1/3 of a cup of plaster of Paris, 1/3 of a cup of water for every cup of paint. Now I'm actually going to be using 2 cups of paint, so I've doubled my recipe here. That's why you saw 2 cups of each going in. The plaster of Paris I bought from eBay. It was only $6 for a 5 kilo bag, and then it was about $12 for postage, which was pretty reasonable. And I think the trick is with this is to mix the plaster of Paris with the water first before adding it to your paint. Now this recipe, just from what I've read on the internet, this is probably a little bit watery than most people use. I think most people suggest a pancake batter consistency, but this, I just used it as per the instructions, as it was my first time and I was a bit worried about how it would turn out, so I just mixed it as it was and then added my paint to it then. The paint that I'm using is just a normal interior paint, Taubman's Easy Coat, and the colour we chose was Grape Popsicle. This is a 1 litre tin, and I only required half that tin to paint the drawers. So that's my mix, my plaster of Paris mix there, and to that I am now going to add 2 cups of this paint, and that was all that I required for the drawers. So I've still got half a can of this colour left for another project. I think you definitely want to mix the plaster of Paris mix first before adding your paint to it. A lot of people that I've known that weren't happy with the way it's turned out has just poured the water and the plaster of Paris into the paint and then mixed it, and I don't think it turns out quite as nice as once you mix the plaster of Paris first. So I mix that all in. From there, with that paint now, I've just painted the inside of the drawers, and I also painted the outside sides of the drawers, so the bit that you'll see when the drawers are pulled out. I didn't sand or anything in between these coats. These drawers weren't sanded at all, and the paint just went on so smoothly. It only required 2 coats for the finish that I was looking for, and I'm really impressed with it. Like hardly any brush strokes. Like once it dried, the brush strokes just disappeared. It's really good. So next step now is to do the rest of the desk. The rest of the desk is going to be in plain white. So I removed the top of the desk. You can see here, that was the top where the insert used to sit. Removed the insert, and I lightly sanded any damaged areas on these pieces as well. Now the paint I'm using is Taubman's Endure. I've used this on quite a number of my projects, so there's only about 1 litre left in this tin. So for 1 litre, which is 4 cups, I'm using the same plaster of Paris recipe 4 times. So I'd be adding 4 1/3 cups of plaster of Paris and mixing that with 4 1/3 cups of water. and then adding that mix to my paint can. And I think this is probably a little bit too watery, so you could probably do a little bit less than 1/3 of a cup for each plaster of Paris, but I mean, this still turned out perfectly. Like, well, I was really happy with it anyway. I think it's changed my life, to be honest. I don't think I'll be using regular paint ever again. So as you can see here, I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but my paint can's only about 1 litre left. And I will be honest, when I first poured this in, I did have a little bit of a heart attack because it was such a different colour to the white paint, and I was really panicking at this stage. But then after a bit of mixing, it all just disappeared and blended into the white paint. It didn't change the colour of the paint at all. And now, using this same chalk paint, I just now painted all the pieces white. And for these, they actually required 3 coats before I got the finish I was after, which would basically be the same as if you were using 1 undercoat and then putting 2 coats of paint on top. I just did 3 coats of this paint. And I didn't sand in between coats, it wasn't necessary, but the only thing I did do was give each piece a light hand sand before the final coat. Now here I'm just showing you the consistency of the paint. It's almost like a Jif cleaner type consistency, or like a toothpaste type consistency. It's quite thick and creamy, and that's the thing I think that's different with regular paint, is that once it dries, that plaster of Paris sets hard and smooths out any brush strokes or inconsistencies in the paint. And you can see here, this is that chalk type finish. It's still wet here, so it's showing up the brush strokes and that chalky sort of finish. The next step, once everything's dry and you've done all your coats of paint, it's very important to put some furniture wax on the top of your paint to protect it. This step also helps to smooth out that chalky finish. When you're buffing this wax in and then buffing it off, that also smooths out the finish of that graininess that the chalk paint has. So this is a very important step to protecting your furniture. Make sure you don't skip this step. So for this wax that I'm using, it said to rub it all on, rub it into the paint, and leave it for about 10 or 15 minutes and then buff it off. I used a plain white rag. I think this was actually a cut up white t-shirt, and I would only recommend using a white one if you're doing white furniture, just in case any dyes come off the rag and wipe onto your furniture. You don't want that to happen. So this is the desk now with the drawers put back in. Yeah, it looks really good, and see, you can see the desk sitting next to it is the exact same desk, and this is just, yeah, this is quite a good before and after shot of what it used to look like to what it is now. And I'll try and give you a close-up of the paint finish now that it's dry. It's quite a nice finish. I'm really happy with it. Next step is getting onto the insert. I removed the staples and the vinyl from the MDF board that made up the insert of the desk, and then I gave it a very light sand just to smooth out any of the staple holes and any inconsistencies on the board itself. Then I used the leftover chalk paint to give it a white background. Now while your insert's drying, this is where I've gotten all the images to put on the insert itself. And I just went onto Google and I typed in watercolor pictures, chose pictures that my daughter likes, like things that she's interested in, her hobbies, things like that, horses, she's a mad horse lover, animal lover. Once I've printed all of those off, I then cut them out. Once all your images are cut out, then you can start to set them out onto your board until you're happy with the layout. So this is a rough guide as to where my images will be sitting once I stick them down. To stick your images down, I used a mixture of PVA glue, watered down with just some plain water. You want this sort of consistency, so it's quite a runny consistency, because PVA glue is quite gluggy as it is, and you need quite a lot, because not only is this glue going to stick down all the pictures, it's also going to act as a top coat over the top of them as well. So to stick each picture down, you need to cover the back of the picture with the glue, and I recommend covering the actual picture and not the board with the glue, just to give you a better finish. Now once you've positioned your picture, tap it down right in the center just so that it doesn't move, and then use some sort of credit card or gift card to smooth it out from the center towards the outside so that you smooth out any wrinkles in the paper. And do this very gently, because as the paper is going to be wet, you don't want to tear it. So start from the middle and work your way out, smoothing it all out. And this should give you the best finish. So what I've done here is I've stuck down all the border pictures, and I've also then stuck the big picture that's going right in the middle. And then the next steps are arrange all the middle pictures to fit in the spaces. And this is it. This is everything stuck down now. So it's just a collection of pictures of things that my daughter loves or is interested in, hobbies, anything like that. What I've done here is just using a little bit of coloured acrylic paint. I used the colours pink, blue and a aqua colour. I just got a little foam dabber and dabbed it in a little bit of the paint, and just lightly dabbed some paint around the edges of each of the pictures. This just helps to cover up any gaps or joins in the pictures. It just sort of gives a bit of colour to it so that there's no big white gaps there. Once all the glue is dry, give it a good few hours to dry, then use the same glue mix to cover the whole entire thing with this glue mix, and this will help to seal the photos in and protect them. Leave it to dry overnight and then come back and do another coat. Like I said, I did about 3 coats on this. Finish off your desk with some pretty knobs. These little crystal knobs I got from eBay. I think they were about $8 for a pack of 10. And now for the big reveal. Here it is. My daughter was really pleased with this. This will look nice in her room once we move into our new house. This is a good before and after. It's the exact same desk sitting next to it. And I'll actually be doing another video doing a makeover on this desk too for my son. So he's going to have a bit of a vintage retro look to his desk. So keep an eye out for that one coming up. And here's the pop of colour in the drawers. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and it gives you some ideas for doing your own makeover. If you like what you see, subscribe to my channel because I have heaps more furniture makeovers and heaps more room decor videos coming up.